So friends, in this video, let us solve this problem of tensions. So here we have got 60 kg block which is hanging by these two ropes T1, T2. So we have to basically find the tension in these ropes T1 and T2. And you can also see that they have given the angle at which this rope and block is making. So for T1 it is 60 degrees, for T2 it is 30 degrees. The mass of the block is 60 kg. So let us see how to solve this. Basically, one thing that you need to know is that this particular block is not moving, it is stationary. So entire system is stationary. And it is very critical to solve this problem to understand that the system is stationary. Because if the system is stationary, what it means is that the net force has to be zero. Okay, net force has to be zero. So what we have to do to solve these problems is that find all the forces in x direction, find all the forces in y direction, and net force along the x direction has to be zero and net forces along the y direction has to be zero. So we will create those equations and then we will be able to solve this problem. For this block of 60 kg, there is one force that is in downward direction and there are two forces but they are at angles. One is at 60 degree and one is at 30 degree. So we will split these forces in this T1 and T2 in x and y components and then we can do additions. So if you consider this T1, we can split this resultant vector. Okay, so this is the resultant force, right, in this direction. So we split this into two components, one in x direction, one in y direction, and this angle is 60. That means this has to be T1 cos 60. Okay, cos 60. And using Pythagoras theorem, this has to be T1 sine theta or T1 sine 60. Same way, T2 can also be split. So x component will come out to be T2 cos theta and y component will come out to be T2 sine theta. Now we have got x components and y components of those forces. So what we can write is that this particular downward force, negative y direction, it has to be is equal to, so this has to be equal to sum of these two forces that are in the upward direction. So this one is T1 sine theta, that is T1 sine 60, and this one is T2 sine 30. So these forces are in upward direction and this force is in a downward direction. So they must be equal because the net force on the system is zero. That's why we have got this first equation. To get the second equation, we will equate the forces in the x direction. So in the x direction, we have got this force T1 cos 60, which is in the negative x direction, and there is another force along the x direction in the positive direction, T2 cos 30. So they have to be equal. That's why we have got this second equation. Now once we get these two equations, it's very simple. You can see when you know the cos 60 value, you know cos 30 value. So basically you can get T1 is equal to T2 into some variable, say V1, and then you can put this T1's value in the first equation and then easily calculate T2. Once you get T2, you can calculate T1. Simple. Thanks for watching.